You measure a very wide range of outcomes, and I think that's appropriate because you also intervene in many different domains. Now, a key challenge that we're facing with randomized controlled trials is that we're forced to, when we register the trial and we register the protocol, to choose primary and secondary outcomes and to be very selective. So I was wondering if you have done any thinking around that, like how to limit outcomes, or if you, any thoughts you want to share on that. Thank you.
When you look at the consumption of vegetables among the households that were non-growers, could it be because of the price, such that maybe the price of vegetables in Tanzania is lower as compared to the price of vegetables in Ethiopia?
For the RCT registration, we did an RCT registration, and what we put, because as the nutritionist of the project, not the agriculture people in the project, did the RCT, child's dietary diversity was our primary outcomes, and then we have, for secondary outcomes, we put parental dietary diversity and child's anthropometry.
Thank you. I'll start with the last question, the difference in the consumption of vegetables by those that were not producing. In Ethiopia, one of the reasons why it was so low was that we observed that in the local markets in the villages where we were, vegetables were not easily available there. So that could have been one of the reasons. In Tanzania, vegetables were more readily available in their markets. However, some of the villages did not have local markets, and the nearest market would be in the next village or a long way away where they need transport to get to that place. So those are some of the factors that contributed to what we see there.
From the first graph we showed, the result we showed, we showed the correlation between the assets owned and the stunted growth. We saw a positive correlation in that the fewer your assets, the more stunted you become. And then we just saw from Catherine's presentation that children from poor homes actually have more, the tendency of taking more milk. And I was of the opinion that the stunted growth you are measuring, are you measuring their nutritional status, or you are measuring their energy requirement status? Because from poor homes means that they'll work more on the farms because they have more farms. And that means they'll take more energy diet compared to nutritional diet. So they'll end up having more nutritional, more energy bias-driven diet compared to nutritious diet. So with that, with what Catherine said about those involved in pastoralism or rearing animals, they having to take more milk. Won't that milk in those areas, could they compensate for their nutritional deficiency? So in that, some that produce more of the agro would have more energy-driven diet. Those that produce the pasture, the animal will have more of the milk diet. And how would that compensate for the variation between their energy demand and their nutritional demands? Thank you.
There's this thing about a trade-off between income and nutrition in the households. But we normally believe that poverty reduction actually is supposed to help in nutrition. Can we really be able to say exactly what is happening here? It looks like there is a greater push towards income rather than nutrition at the household level, at least from what we are hearing. I don't know whether you are getting the point. Then the last speaker, you gave us all these positive, negative things. Are they all significant in your work? Or are you just saying this is the direction they are going? Thank you.
Successful home garden programs have usually two things: gardening and nutritional awareness raising, because we need to apply both the supply side as well as demand side. But what you're presenting is a very supply side driven home garden program implemented through the agriculture extension services. And I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about was there a demand side component in there also, and does the agriculture extension service is able to also to raise the demand of households for vegetables? That's a bit of my concern with this program. Thank you.
All right. You indicated that in your findings, production was actually ownership was directly related to intake. But from the crop agriculture production is not necessarily directly related to consumption. What are these very specific reasons why ownership of livestock would be related directly to intake?
Energy intake is not observed in the DHS. They're just simple yes-no questions. Did you consume milk yesterday, eggs yesterday, etc. So as far as I understood, you were saying, yeah, maybe some of the kids who are consuming dairy or other animal source foods are getting higher energy intake. That's quite plausible, but very hard to test. In another paper, actually, with Callie and John Hoddenot, we've written a paper on animal source foods and stunting and looked at that issue a little bit, but it's quite hard to discern, and it might be very context specific. But the energy intake and energy expenditure thing is a bit of an unknown quantity. And then the second question, actually, I don't think I said there was any trade-off, so I'll let I'll let her answer that. I think you would find that within each farming system, wealth is associated with lower stunting. What I was saying was there are these wealth differences across farming systems, but actually those don't necessarily translate into better or worse diets. So, and I think that's because it's not just wealth that determines animal source food consumption, it's food prices, the relative price of different animal source foods, and also just what's available in the market.
May we go in the order the question came. So the first question was about that trade-off and whether more income is not also more nutrition. I think that's a very, very good question. I wished I had finalized my full research on this question, and I also wanted to investigate like the indirect link between livestock ownership and whether when you own livestock, you actually, through income, would buy also other better nutrient food like legumes or vitamin A fruits. Unfortunately, we didn't finish that. My hypothesis is that there is a transition. Once if you are this Maasai lady who hardly can send her children to school and you get this opportunity to send your milk and suddenly sort all your other problems, then probably nutrition is not number one. But I haven't finished the research, so I can't prove this. So just keep it as an idea. The second was, yeah, crop. It seems that people tend to not consume per se the crops that they are producing. That's correct. Why is this the case with livestock? Now, one of the research questions was, is this the case? And we seem to find across all countries and across all studies in the literature that people tend to have home consumption. And if you looked correctly at what I did, and we looked at milk and eggs. Milk and eggs you can actually take out very small quantities easily or for your home consumption. We did not look at slaughtered goats because slaughtering a goat is a much more difficult process. And then you also cannot really measure, did you consume your own goat or did you share it with your neighbor? So this is why I guess it's coming out. It's because we also selected products that are highly separable.
So first question was whether these correlations were significant. So yes, so I couldn't really present the conventional regression table in 8 minutes. I would have been struggling to finish the presentation. But yeah, all of these are statistically significant, which is maybe not so surprising. We are dealing with a very large sample here, relatively speaking. But if you look at the magnitudes of these correlations, it seems that this water access and the promotion intensity of the health extension workers and agriculture extension workers are really important factors here. Good questions about the knowledge thing. So you're right that in the conventional programs there is quite integrated package when it comes to homestead gardening, and knowledge is a very important part of this. So in this government program, the homestead garden program, homestead gardening promotion is a part of a larger package. So the health extension workers are providing BCC, behavioral change communication, to these households as well. And we find that in other research that the contact with the health extension worker is associated with better nutritional knowledge as well. Whether it's the effectiveness is as good as in this kind of NGO-led programs, that's another question, I think.
Thank you, audience, for coming. We are happy you took part and contributed to the success of this session.